brief video is a video on one of our GCSE case studies. It is based on goat aids in Babati, Tanzania, and is part of the resource reliance topic for paper 2. So how does it link to the syllabus? Well, it's our example of how successful a project has been at achieving food security at a local scale. A reminder that all of our case studies for this particular section are based around Tanzania. The Babati district is in an area in northern Tanzania. 90% of the population live in villages and depend on agriculture for their livelihood. Between 1999 and 2006, the UK-based charity Farm Africa ran a goat aid programme with the aim of improving household nutrition and income for villagers. So how did it work? The Goat Aid programme is an example of a bottom-up aid project. This means that it's community-focused and acts on a small scale. Farm Africa imported Toggenburg goats at a total cost of £200,000. There were 500 goats in total. These goats were chosen due to them being able to produce up to 3 litres of milk a day. That's 3 times as much as cows can produce. The programme targeted the poorest women in villages, and groups of 4 women took it in turns to look after the female goat and keep a female kid, that's a baby goat. The farmers were given training to look after the goats effectively, and the goats were used for many purposes, including breeding and then selling on the baby goats, providing milk and cheese for villagers, producing goat manure that could be used in agriculture, and the milk and cheese being able to be sold on as products. So there was a number of successes for the scheme, and it was successful at increasing farmers' income. Those in the scheme earned on average $720 more a year than those not in the scheme. The money was used to be able to pay to send children to school, to buy consumer goods, to pay medical bills, and to buy food. The biggest proportion of money was used to send children to school, and therefore it can be argued that the scheme has been successful at tackling long-term established poverty in the region. In addition, 11% of the extra income was spent on buying food, and therefore it can be argued that the scheme was successful to some extent at increasing food security as the purchasing power of local people increased. However, there have been a number of criticisms of the project. The goats require a lot of water in an area where water is a scarce resource. In addition, hooved animals such as goats that graze can damage the land and lead to desertification. It is argued that vet bills can be expensive if a goat gets sick. However, villagers were trained on how to treat simple diseases. Could therefore be argued that the scheme had its downfalls and may increase food security by damaging the land that 90% of the population rely on for their incomes. So what would a question look like in the exam here then? To what extent has a local scale attempt to achieve food security been successful in a country that you have studied? Now this question is worth 8 marks, so we know our structure here is going to be PED on PED with a conclusion. So you're going to need one paragraph on successes, then on the other hand, a paragraph on criticisms, and then come to a judgment on the success. This is an evaluate question, so to get the highest marks you need to think about, is it effective in the short term? Has it been successful in the long term? Who is benefiting from this scheme? So you may want to pause the video here and have a go at writing an answer to this question, and in a couple of minutes I'll move on to show you an example of a model paragraph for this question. Okay, so here is a model paragraph for the question. So to start with, we've got a point. On the one hand, the Goat Aid scheme has helped to achieve food security in the Babati region as villagers have more money to spend on purchasing food. Be clear here that I've linked to the Babati region. It's a small scale approach, so I need to focus on the area it was targeting. Evidence: 500 goats were provided on a credit system to groups of villagers in the region. These goats were used to produce milk and cheese, thus increasing the nutritional diet of the local population. Remember, this question is asking about food security, so you need to clearly link to has food being produced by this scheme and is it accessible to villagers. In addition, villagers were able to sell both the products and baby goats to earn extra money, allowing them to further increase their spending power. On average, farmers in the Goat Aid project earned $720 more a year than those not in the project. Remember, food security isn't just about having food, but it's being able to afford food. So in this explanation section, I've linked to that second part of the food security definition at having more money to be able to buy the food. And then to finish, this shows that the Goat Aid project was successful at achieving food security at a local scale. This is because in the short term, local people can gain increased food availability for their families. In addition, in the long term, the scheme was able to tackle the root causes of food insecurity in the region through an increasing spending power for education. So here I've linked to both the short term and the long term to allow me to access those evaluate marks. So now it's over to you to have a go at the second paragraph on criticisms. Remember to focus on local scale and food security, both having the food available, but also being able to afford the food available, and then writing a conclusion. Once you've had a go at that, give it to your geography teacher and they will mark it for you.